AI music is about to get even crazier. I just found a perfect plugin that matches perfectly with the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4. This plugin is by our guy who supported our plugin, so I want to thank him. Ewan Bristow, if I'm saying his name wrong, forgive me. He basically said, I bought the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4 and gave it a whirl in the DAW, and in Plugin Doctor, he says $200 is a bit much. No hate, he's just being honest. But he's supported regardless, and I want to thank him for that. So he's the creator of this plugin called ANINA. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And the ANINA plugin will clean up your audio. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to grab these SUNO samples and run it through this pairing of a plugin. So these are all SUNO samples. The ANINA plugin is free, but I recommend you guys put some money on it because it actually sounds very, 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 very smooth. And I'll show you guys how to use it on a professional level. Basically, the secret here is click this plus button. I'd recommend you guys set your low setting to about 1 kilohertz, okay, because this is where the high range begins, and then the high cutoff to about somewhere around 10K. We don't want to completely remove everything. We just want to remove a certain area. So from about 1K to 10K, this is a nice area to focus on. If you guys need more adjustment, you guys can adjust it there. But that's how I have mine set up, and I really don't touch anything else outside of that. So what we're going to do, this is what's called a resonance suppression tool. So on the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4, there's a clean knob, but the clean knob was initially built for AI vocals. As you guys know, SUNO samples and samples from AI generated music can have a lot of S and sibilance and harshness. And what this plugin does or did or focused on was try to reduce it, not completely get rid of it, but just reduce it to the point where it wasn't blowing up our eardrums and making it hurt. So this tool was never meant to be a perfect suppression tool. Whereas the ANINA plugin, think of this as a highly surgical, specialized tool specifically for this job specifically. The clean tool does a job, but it's not the same job as the ANINA. It's a specialized, like a sniper versus like somebody with like an AR in Call of Duty, okay? So yeah, the AR can get it done, but the snipers, can hit you long range. So that's kind of how I perceive these two. So without further ado, let's run the AI through this. And what we're gonna do, the signal chain is this. So if you guys have AI songs or samples you wanna clean up, and we're going to add ANINA first in the chain. This will take care of all the harshness so that we can push it harder into the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4. So that's the chain. Just two simple plugins. ANINA to clean up some of the aggressive harshness into the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4. I'll leave the links below. So here we go with the first sample here.
Touching my skin.
Let's zoom ahead a little bit.
Touching my skin. Feel you through every single touch.
So if I turn off the plugins, let's go one by one.
Just in your pen, writing my love story ever much.
Let's turn on the ANINA plugin.
Deep in my skin.
So here the blue is showing where it's taking out the harshness. Very clean, very smooth. All right, so now we have that. Let's go into the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4 to give it the density and analog vibe. See how it instantly opens it up? Here's before. Here's after. And now we can push into the plugin as much as we want. So when you guys pair it with the ANINA plugin, before the clean plugin, there was a trade-off. Again, this clean tool wasn't built to be an everything tool. Okay, but so there was a trade-off when you turn this up. There's a trade-off of characteristics. The ANINA is built specifically for this specific job, which is to take care of the harshness. So it smooths it out. So now we can use everything else in the mastering tool just freely without overly thinking, because it takes care of the harsh area. So let's just crank the loud knob. Let's widen this out. Add some bass. Now, one more thing about my plugin is that it needs to be gain staged properly. So let's turn down the input signal. Actually, we're just going to do it inside the plugin. I don't want to bore you guys. But basically, if you unlink this, you could turn down the input. The more you turn it down, usually the better results you get. Now we can go into the plugin. Let's add some compression. So now I'm just adjusting some of the back tools just to see what kind of sound we get. Alright, so here's before. entire chain just to show you guys. So here's before. Let's go back to that area because it's very energetic. So here's before the entire chain. It's all turned off. And then we'll do it without ANINA and then with. So here's just the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4. But still, there's still that bright area that can get a little aggressive. So now I'm going to flick the ANINA plugin on and off just so you guys can hear the difference. So let's go back to our... Alright, here's off. Here's on. That really cleans up the harmonic distribution to where we can actually hear the harmonics we want and not just these dissonant, noisy harmonics. So here's before. Here's after. It really makes the song pleasing to listen to when it takes care of those sharp parts. Again, let me just show you guys our clean tool. Our clean tool wasn't meant to be this surgical. So he went in, he designed a tool specifically for one job. So here we have the clean knob. I'll show you guys the clean knob. Now we do have a feature called auto clean. I just want to let you guys know. So if I hit this, it looks at the resonances in your song. So let's hit auto clean. So here's before. This is just the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4. So here's before. Here's after. So it does open up the song, but again, like I said, his is a specialty tool to where it's built specifically for one thing. You know, imagine somebody training for a marathon their entire life. That's kind of like what this plugin is. So let's turn the clean knob down. Actually, here's what we'll do. Let me see if I can undo that change I just made. Let's create two versions of this just so we can hear the difference between the ANINA plugin and the new auto clean. So what we're going to do is duplicate this, make it unique. We're going to send it over to a different channel. Let's hit Control L. We're going to copy those same, where's it at here? We're going to copy the same settings. Okay, so let's save over, what channel is that? I'm assuming it's 7, hopefully it's 7. I didn't check. Okay, 7, we got lucky. So we're gonna cycle between these two here. So we have 1 on 7. We're gonna turn the ANINA setting on. We're gonna turn off the cleaning tool. Hopefully I'm making sense, you guys. So 1 is basically comparing the clean from the AI Master 4. So let's label these. And this one, I routed to the wrong channel. Great. That's the group. Hold on, yeah, I have to reroute this stuff. Oh, no, never mind. It was just a name change. So here we have, we're going to do the ANINA plugin plus our mastering. On the initial one, we're going to do just mastering. All right, so we're going to let's just remove this for now so you guys can visually see. All right, so that we're going to put these side by side so we can see. All right, so this one, let's label it like red. The ANINA one, let's label this blue. All right, so we understand the difference here. So I'm going to solo each track, and we're going to go to the BusyWorks Beats tool, and of course I picked the wrong one. So okay, here's what I'm going to do. Sorry, y'all. We're going to have it auto clean one more time. So let's do it from scratch. All right, so let's hit auto clean, and then we'll listen to the track and try to clean it up. All right, so that's the new auto clean feature we added just for people who don't know how to set the cleaning tool, because it is a little complex of a cleaning tool. All right, so now let's go to the ANINA tool, which is built specifically for this type of thing. So we have the settings still. All right, and this is plus the BusyWorks Beats. Let's turn off the clean tool. All right, so now what we're gonna do is do a blind test between these two and see which one, see if we can hear the difference. So what this blind test does is it puts these side by side, and then what we could do is solo each chain here. So if we solo the ANINA plus the mastering tool, we'll see that the signal comes through channel 7. If we solo the second channel, it comes through channel 6. So what we're going to do is do a blind test. So once I hit these dice, it will shuffle these to channels, and then we don't know which is which, so we can actually hear the comparison. So let's hit start. All right, and then we're gonna run these. So here's 1. And then we can also leave notes here. Let's also use the areas that are a little more AI music sounding. All right, so here's 1. Now let's go back and run it through number 2. So this is tougher than I thought. So what we're gonna have to do is solo the area where it's like very AI sounding and go between the two. So this is actually tougher than I assumed it would be. The differences here. So let's go to 1. And now I'm gonna go between the two and try to identify the differences. This one sounds a little more hollowed. Open. So this one's just a little more resonant, just a little bit. Okay, it's hard to really hear unless you really listen for very specific spots, but it is a tiny bit more resonant. All right, so let's reveal these tracks. All right, so our version was a little more resonant. Now what we're gonna do is test one more feature because I have it off by default, which is called the AI Tamer. This thing looks for ringing resonances. Also, let's tame this by ear and not let the auto clean feature. Let's see if that gets rid of that resonance. Also, we have a resonance tool here. And we could push the clean even further. So let's push the clean further to see if... All right, now let's cycle between these two. should be more even in terms of settings now. All right, so let's really hear these two. These are blind tested. So I'm cycling between the two to try to hear a difference. It is very hard to hear a difference, but I think if we solo like one spot, maybe we'll be able to. So this might get a little annoying, but I have to focus on an area that has an actual noticeable resonance to it. Let's see if I can find an area. So this part is very resonant, so let's use this area. Be honest, y'all, it's very hard to hear the difference. I think the first one is, at least what my ear's hearing, this is a little bit faster in terms of how it clamps down. This one seems like it has a higher look at, it's called a look ahead window. That's what I hear, but it's very hard to hear the difference now that I tuned it to actually. Man, this is tough. So I'm listening, instead of the high frequencies, let's listen to the low frequencies. This one sounds a little beefy, like a little more low end, allowed through. Maybe because that longer look ahead window lets those transients come through. So I'll say, maybe it's an optical illusion, I don't know, but the bass is a little bit different, and it could be because of the way they handle transients. So I'm not sure which is which, I have no idea. So let's show the tracks. So the ANINA plus the mastering seems like, because of that look ahead window, gives us more, like it does something to the bass. I can't put a finger on it. If I had to guess, it's the look ahead window on the actual resonance tool. That's a guess, but as you guys can hear, they're pretty close, but there is a tiny difference, and I can't pinpoint the exact thing. If I had to guess though, it'd be what's called a look ahead window. So go support the plugin. It is free, but I recommend you guys go support it. It's a really nice combo. This and the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4. Nice combo for AI music. So let me show you guys another track. I forgot we have more tracks than just this one. So let's just quickly run it through this chain. And let me see here. All right, so here we just have the same settings. I recommend you guys put it at 1K to 10K. Feel you through every single touch. Same settings as before. We don't need to. Let's take off the clean tool. Trust in your pen. So here's before the AI mastering. Writing my love story ever much. Here's after. Deep in my skin. Feeling that is so here's before the ANINA plugin. One in a million. Here's with it on. You're so unique, you fill me up. Touching my skin. I feel you through. Here's before. Single touch. Trust So like I said, my guess is that it adds a look ahead window. I could be way wrong. I'm just guessing. I have no idea. But it does something to the bass transient and the phase. Okay, so here's another sample. Just gonna run the same presets here, just to show you guys you don't really need to change much when you're mastering. Just add a little more bass. Here's before. Got some compression in here. Oh, it is. Never mind. So here's before any processing. Here's after these two combined. Now I'm interested to know, because that sounded different from what I remember. Oh, hold on, yo. So that sounds weird. It could just be the sample itself. Let's turn off this ANINA plugin real quick. All right, so this is one of the trade-offs of using a suppression tool. It can, because SUNO generates mainly in the 2K to, let's say, 10K range, when we adjust that range too much for the harshness, we can pull out the source of the sound itself. So there is a trade-off when using suppression tools, and this is one of those areas. So if you guys listened to before, the defining sound of the sound is in that shooting star, that kind of sound. And then if we add this plugin here, it just buries the vocal. So this is one of those trade-offs in general of any sound anywhere. There's always a trade-off. But what we're going to do is lower the amount. So we can also, I assume we can automate these. Yeah, we can create an automation clip just by right-clicking here, create an automation clip. So what you would do is just do that and just turn it down for this area so that the vocal can come through. So let's turn it down to about 25% and just see if that helps it come through. So again, here's before. Here's after. It does kind of take away the perception of loudness, but again, you guys can automate this. Let's try one more thing. Let's pull up the attack time to see if that allows some more. Okay, so here's before. And then here's after. So that would be a more proper setting that I would use on this type of track. Let's do one more thing. Let's see what the auto clean does to this. So our plugins just work fundamentally different. Auto clean was built not to remove deep resonances. It was just meant to clean up areas where things tend to have friction. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so this plugin was built specifically for resonances. So in AI music, this is good in one hand, but there is a trade-off, as you guys heard. It can potentially take away from the lead vocal, depending on what type of track you guys are doing. Let's do a lower release in the case that that's. So now we have a more. So there is a small trade-off, but the benefit is less harshness, so you can turn your song up louder. Now I would never turn that song up that loud. I'm just showing you guys. You can push harder into the mastering tool, because that harshness, that deep harshness is focused on. But there was a trade-off at that specific point. So I'm glad we found a track that can actually show you guys what suppression does, resonance suppression. Here's another sample. Let's put this back on the default settings. So here's before the AI mastering. Here's after.
Supernatural feeling, sexual healing. Shooting stars.
So that's a very interesting resonance that SUNO generated. It goes, it gets very phasey, they call it. Now let's make sure that's not SUNO. So let's turn off the ANINA plugin. So here's another one of those areas where, depending on the genre and the vocalist, it can, here's what I'm saying. Okay, so here's before. Okay, so the details in that shooting stars, the high frequency. Now with ANINA on, it can take away the perception of the words. Because it does its job so well, it could turn into more of what they call a comb filter type sound. So like I said, this is like a specialty tool. It's like a sniper on the battlefield, whereas the BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering Clean tool is more like an A&R. The A&R is built for like different battlegrounds, different maps. A sniper is built for specialty use cases. So you wouldn't run around on Rust. I mean, some people would with a sniper. Okay, it's too small of a map to even be setting up. Some people are really good with it, but I'm trying to think of another Call of Duty map. But think of Shipyard, is that the one? Actually, we used to snipe on Shipyard. What am I saying? But the point is, you have to be good at sniping on Shipyard and Rust to use the ANINA plugin, whereas BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 4 is like the good old AR, just works per map. So that's the fundamental difference. I'm trying to show you guys the difference to where most people can understand. So just listen to it adds what's called a comb filter. Here's before. Here's after the ANINA plugin. Sounds like it's buried under the water. Now, to be fair, we have to roll back some of the amount. Okay, so we can't just say that that's how it's going to sound. But if you want a plugin that's set and forget, you got to remember there's a trade-off in the case that the song has high resonance areas like this song. So most people aren't going to be automating this. They're going to be setting and forgetting type thing. So let's set this to where so roll back the amount to about half the amount. So here's before. Here's after. So that lets just enough like presence come through without it pulling it all the way back. So you guys got to make sure you're checking the setting here and also checking the range that you have set. Okay, so those are the two things just to be aware of. Again, my plugin was built to just press buttons. If you don't know anything about mixing, just hit auto clean. And if you don't know anything about mastering, just hit auto master. Alright, now let's set the levels for you. You can make it louder if you want. Here's before. Here's after. Now it gets a little heavy on it. So let's add the ANINA plugin. Here's before. Here's after. So you guys test it out for yourself. The plugin is free, but I put money on it because I want to support the creator. And thank you guys for watching. It's a game from BusyWorksBeats.com. Peace out, guys.